Scaling in your business means that you have to promote and promote some more. Reaching a wide audience doesn't have to be a painful process, and we're here to help you. Sign up for your sponsor ad today. You provide the product, service, or event that you would like to promote, and we do the rest. Enter and win a sponsor slot today. It's a win-win. It's cost-effective and meets your need. For more information, email helloaudacitypodcast@gmail.com or simply send us a DM. You're listening to Hello Audacity Podcast, where we highlight audacity in business from startup to multi-level success, finance, health, wealth building, and the journey to self-discovery. The added bonus is that you get to learn from industry leaders and hear victory stories across the nation. Now that's Audacity. I'm your host, LaShaMarie. Let's get into it. Who's in the guest chair today? Well, when I tell you, whenever I go to an event and there's speakers, I want energy and I want lessons that I can implement immediately. And please keep my attention. And that's why we have our next guest. Terence Dixon is an inspirational speaker and best-selling author of I Am a Liar. Terence understands the struggles of living a life that's not true to yourself, but he also knows the transformative power of self-discovery and the importance of being authentic. Take a seat and get motivated to stop lying and start living.
Hey, it's your girl, lashammarie. Thank you for coming back and tuning in for another episode of Hello Audacity Podcast. Hey, fam. Hey, cousins. If you are new, please do not forget to subscribe, like, share, tune in, and follow. Set those notifications on so that you are aware of when we are broadcasting and bringing amazing people to the stage. I mean, you're learning gems. You're getting your life together, your finances together, your mind together, your body together, your relationships. I mean, all of it comes together, baby. That's audacity, okay? So today's show may trigger someone, some of you out there, but it's okay. I always say the triggers are not a bad thing. Some are reminders of the work that we still have left to do within us. So let's take a deep dive into emotional trauma and how we can stop lying about our lives and start living freely. So our next guest, I want to bring him on the stage so we can have this deep conversation. Hey, Terence.
Hey, lashammarie, right?
It is Lashay.
lashammarie. I should know that. I got an aunt named Lashay. I should know that.
Well, you know what? I have dealt with this all of my life. Of course, your family name your stuff and they leave off an E or a Y and then have people all kind of guessing and stuff. But no, it is good to have you on here because, you know, this topic of emotional trauma is so real. And it's deeper. And I love to introduce things that people that really pulls out like one sector. I mean, because life coach is so broad. But when we can really identify and sit down, deal with, unpack the root cause of something, and a specialist like you, and kind of dissect it for individuals to really understand and how we grow. So yes, let me stop talking. Give you the stage.
That's right. Oh, good.
Let the audience know exactly who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's an honor and privilege for me to be here today. I'm excited to be on the program, and I just wanted to share, with your community about our emotional scars. I'm an emotional trauma health coach and inspirational speaker. And so what I do is coach individuals. What I do is try to help them in a 4-pillar process, which includes faith and fitness, forgiveness, and then focus. And what we do is delve deep into those emotional scars and talk about how to nurture them properly, because what we do and how I got to this point is that for over 25 years out of my life, I hid this physical scar on my arm, right? Because when I was a little boy, 7 years old, I prayed to get hit by a car so that I can break my leg, right? Break my leg in an effort to do what? To stay home from school. And so all year long, I prayed like every day, dear Lord, please help me to get hit by a car. I would say, now I lay down to sleep. I pray to Lord, my soul to keep. When I should die, I pray to Lord, my soul to keep. And then I would add the prayer that would change the course of my life forever is that, dear God, please help me to get hit by a car so that I can break my leg. Because I saw this kid on TV with a broken leg, and I thought that if I got a broken leg, I would be able to stay home from school. And so in the summer of that year, I was playing in the street. I wasn't thinking about getting hit by a car. I wasn't thinking about breaking my leg. I was having just too much fun playing outside when this big green car I did not notice was heading towards me like a battering ram, and it hit me and drug me 5 houses down the street. I did not break any legs or any bones in my body, but I did get this 12-inch scar on my arm. And so the scar, this physical scar, right, it made me, at first I felt powerful and I felt like a superhero from it because my life had been spared. But then over the course of time, I started to think that it was punishment, right? And so emotionally, I started to think that God punished me for praying to self-injure. And so I hid it for 25 years of my life. And that's where the emotional, so I help people understand sometimes how the emotional scars and trauma that we have, number one, it's most of the time not our fault. And then number two, it's really about changing, our focus. And so I know I'm kind of rambling. That was just a quick introduction, but I want to get into the meat of what I really talk about.
Right. Oh wow, that was deep. That's deep. Now, just to ask you questions about that experience, were you going through like being bullied? Why did you want to stay home?
Well, we have just recently moved to the neighborhood, and I was about 7 years old. And so I was at that time shy and timid. And because of that, I was sometimes bullied. And so I just didn't like school, though I tried to fit in. Back then, right, when I was a little boy, I had this big afro. And so I thought I was cool, but no matter how hard I tried, I thought I would never fit in no matter what I did. And so I just happened to see on this TV, this kid with this broken leg living his best life, sitting back in this reclining chair, right? Just kicking back with his leg up, no school, or at least that's what I thought. And then just the best part of it is that his mom would bring him whatever he wanted just by ringing this bell. Ding, 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 ding. And so I thought to myself, that's what I need as a 7-year-old. That's what I need. And then I too can be living my best life.
Wow.
So it was just a thought.
Now, this was 7. When did you actually get hit by the car?
So at 7, I got hit by a car as a 7-year-old. I started praying while I was in school. And then in the summertime of that year, that same year, when I wasn't even thinking about praying, right? Once we get out of the situation that, that we're praying about, right? I was no longer in school. It's the summertime. What happens? We stop praying, right? And so I wasn't praying anymore. I wasn't thinking about even getting hit by a car. It just kind of snuck up on me. I was playing in the street and I didn't notice it. And so it hit me and drug me down the street. And so from that, which I didn't understand, I hid the scar for like 25 years of my life, from the age of 7 into my early 30s, because I thought it was punishment. And I thought also that people, when they would see it, that they would be repulsed by it, that they would run away. As a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old. And so I thought all these things, and I didn't really understand it wasn't about the physical scar. it was really about the emotional scar that I had on my heart, but I didn't understand that at the time until I got older and I went through all these different things. And so my passion in life is to help people understand that sometimes the struggles that we have, the problems that we have, and the trauma that we experience, because 70% of people, based on the survey performed in 24 countries, showed that 70% of people suffer traumatic events.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 30% experience at least 3 to 4 events. And so trauma is very common. It's just how we deal with that, how we resource it, and how we approach it. My goal is to help people not do what I do and wait 25 years. And then I'm in my 30s and I'm like, I got to get past this. I got to get over this.
Yeah.
And come to find out, all my thoughts that I had, which I call them self-lies, right? The false narratives that we tell ourselves that hold us back. You know, my thought was like, oh, people would see the scar and they would run away, or they would be like repulsed, and that has never happened. And so my book is called I Am a Liar. It's really about the lies that we tell ourselves that hold us back into walking in our divine destiny and to our calling, our true purpose in life. And once we get past the emotional scars, then we can help not really get past them, because you don't really get past them. You just learn how to nurture them. And when you learn how to nurture them, then you can start embracing the person that you are, right? And then these narratives that you are, you can start rewriting that narrative into a positive spin, into your real truth. And so that is my desire as a coach and as a speaker, is to impact people and to help them to understand that these scars that we deal with, even though you have them, physical and sometimes invisible, and how they impact our lives, how can we, grow and nurture them, and so that we can live a more grounded, more fulfilled, more successful life.
Yeah. I kind of identify. I actually had to move myself very young. I think I was 14 at the time, and I moved to another area of Detroit. And of course, a lot of people understand that the difference between East and West Side Detroit.
Right.
At that time, I had been really nurtured on the west side of Detroit, and it was a different mindset. It was a different neighborhood that we all came together. It was manicured lawns, neighbors that tell your mama that she was like an auntie. And, I had to move from that area into an area that was completely devastated. I mean, the house that my mom moved into was a decent house. It was a really nice house. If we could just pick up the house,
right?
It would have been better.
Right.
I remember going through a phase where something turned for me at that time. Like, I wasn't really adjusting. I didn't fit in. I was completely different than every other kid.
Right.
I would have to walk in the middle of the street because walking on the sidewalks was too dangerous for a young girl, especially when you're in the Eastern time zone and daylight savings time. You're walking out of the house in the dark. So I learned to walk in the middle. Honey.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I'll never forget almost not graduating on time because there had been so many things happening in us moving where I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe with my mom, and she was going through substance abuse with alcohol and I believe deep depression. And so you kind of step into that mommy role.
Right.
Help, since I'm the older child, I did miss school because God forbid she graduated from alcohol to anything heavier. Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, and I felt I could be that chill. So I did miss a lot of days, and not just trying to save or look out for my mom, but also because I really didn't fit in with the school. I had,
Yeah.
developed all of these relationships on the West Side in my school, who was singing and performing and all of that. And to be taken out of my school was like,
Yeah.
it was dramatic. And so
Sounds to me like you had to mature pretty fast
I had no
to take over
choice.
that mother role.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I share very, openly about the childhood, the sexual assault and being
Yeah.
having incest for years of my since two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So multiple. So there were a lot of things that impacted me before I even had to get to that point. And that's why it is so good that we're having open discussions about some of the things that we go through, even as a young individual, and
Yeah.
how we can bring that baggage even in our adult years. Because, honey, I'm like you. I mean, you might say if I could reach somebody before 30, I'm now screaming if I can reach someone before almost knocking on 50. And
Right.
that's reality. It's just like I want to
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to be almost 50 years old and
Yeah.
just coming into their own narrative and their and really saying, you know what, I didn't cause this wasn't
Right.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's like when you realize that especially what you spoke about, the childhood trauma, and the things as a child that you shouldn't have to go through, and the trauma that you endure, you hold on to that for so long that you think it's your fault. You think that whatever happened to you, or they make you want to think that it's your fault.
Right.
And so that you don't say anything, you don't speak up. And so you carry this for years and years and years and years. As I did, I never told anyone, even my family, that I prayed. I was so ashamed of it. I had so much guilt, so much shame, because the one thing that I looked at every day was the scar, and it was just this daily reminder of my guilt and my shame because I prayed about it. So I never told my siblings, never told my parent, no one, until really I wrote my book. And because that's how much guilt and shame that I had, just getting over that. And so when someone was able to tell me that, hey, 7 years old, it wasn't your fault that you thought that way. It was as crazy as it sounds. Some people are like, man, you were a little crazy at that age. I'm like, no, and I thought so too for the longest. But I just had this idea because of my desire to get out of going to school. And I've learned that what I've learned from getting hit by a car and that visualizing is that you can do the opposite, right? You can visualize the positive things that you want in your life. Whatever your aspirations, your goals, and your desires are, you use the same method. So now everything in my life, when I used to pray to get hit by a car, not only did I pray, I would visualize myself getting hit by a car, breaking my leg, and then sitting back in this reclining chair. And so now with everything that I desire to achieve in life and everything that I have achieved in the past, I've always used that method of visualization. And so you have to be careful about the things that you focus on, good or bad, because those things can become your reality. And so it is about learning as adults that sometimes the childhood trauma that we experience is just not our fault. And just hearing that sometimes and talking to some of coaching clients and letting them know that, number one, it's not your fault. But at the same time, I don't want you to point fingers or point blame to the person that you think it's about. It's their fault, because it's really about you right now. It's about your growth, and it's about your recovery and your healing. And if you focus on someone else or what someone else did to you, then you'll never really overcome and get past the trauma that's impacting you right now today.
But there's a caveat to that, because you know what? We go through life. We make all kinds of mistakes. We get kind of jams. Let's normalize not beating ourselves up, not
Yes.
criticizing, like destroying ourselves for making that one bad decision or having a bad season in life. Like, and that happens. Sometimes we do ask for our own trauma,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Yeah.
we don't get out of the relationship, soon enough.
Right. Right.
We don't understand that we actually have issues to be dealt with. And so people go into alcoholism or laying up under other people or gambling. There's a whole many other things, but and it's good because sometimes a lot of things are not, caused by us, but some things we do cause.
Yeah, we do. We do.
And that's ownership. That's self-acceptance, honey.
Right. You do. Yeah. Yeah. You have to take the good with the bad. And I understand that whole, as in the process of going through this transformative journey, as I got older into my teens and my young adulthood, I abused alcohol and cocaine, and even considered committing suicide as a way to cope with my trauma.
Yeah.
Right. And just cope with, well, not necessarily with the trauma because I didn't understand it at the time, but with the pain and the lack that I was feeling at the time. And so we do all these things in an effort to feel better. And momentarily we'll feel better, but it really doesn't help, the process of healing and growing and evolving as a person. And so once I got past those things and I really just started to do the hard work, and that is to look at why am I feeling this way?
Right.
Right. How can I, even though these things happened and they're partly my fault or whatever the case may be, and I may have these feelings, how can I learn to resource them and heal myself, and then so I can move forward?
Yeah. That is so true. And that's why, I love it when we can have speakers on stage that has dealt with like real life, like life.
Yeah, right.
Because a lot of people you become relatable. Like, oh my God, they have really been through some stuff, and they made it to the other side. So that means that, I have hope. I have a chance that I don't have to live stuck. I don't have to live in a lie, that I can actually start living freely,
Right.
So, I love that, your book, your first book is going to give people the inspiration they need and in order to become, stop living your life.
Stop living your lie and start living your truth, start living your purpose. And, for over half my life. And so I'm really, that book and now this process of coaching and speaking is all about being transparent and being truthful. And I talk about some not so good things that I did in my past in order to get to this point. I had to put it in the book. And a lot of people told me, I don't know, maybe you should leave that out. You don't really want to talk about you abusing alcohol and you getting a DUI.
That's your story. That's your story.
Right. That's the story. And that's a part of the story, doing cocaine. And, I did cocaine for up to a year, and it made me feel good and it made me feel strong. But fortunately, I was able to get away from that. And then there was a really dark period in my life where that's why I say that my foolish prayer almost killed me twice, because the car accident could have killed me. And then I almost could have killed myself by committing suicide. I was at a really dark place that I just couldn't get past this feeling that I had. And fortunately, God was able to take me out of that point in my life. And so, and so I talk freely about the dark parts in my book because I want people to understand that's just part of the process. Yeah. And you have to, it's not about, definitely never lived anybody a perfect life. And so I'm really thankful that for the things that I have gone through in my life, because it helps me to empathize when I hear people and they tell me about their story. and I don't judge,
Mm-hmm.
so it helps me to sympathize and empathize with them and to help them understand that, well, okay, maybe that's where you were and this is where you are now, but
Right.
obviously you want to get better and you want to
Yeah.
go here, and that you have a purpose in life. You are enough. You are
Yeah.
strong. You are amazing. You're all these things that you don't think you are. You're beautiful. You're handsome. You're in, you're ready to move past the parts that's holding you back. And
Yeah.
I want to be a part of that. You're gonna have to do some work, but I want to be a part of that.
Part of that. I
Yeah.
know. Before we turn into these fearless, empowered individuals,
Yeah.
trying to save everybody that we can.
Right.
there's the history before that, because it just doesn't happen overnight. And I know that you were in real estate in the beginning, so I want to ask you, how did you discover this passion and kind of like career entrepreneurship pivot from being a successful mortgage, is it
Mortgage banking. I was in
banking?
mortgage banking. I was a broker. I was a vice president of operations. Majority of that time I spent as an underwriter, as FHA and VA underwriting, helping individuals get into their first home. And I did that for right out of college for close to 30 years of my life. And
Yeah.
so, but deep down inside, even as I was struggling, I knew that eventually one day I would tell my story. And so it just took some time for me. It took me about 4 years to write the book. And it was
Mm-hmm.
actually a time period when God slowed my life down because I was taking care of my mom. She has Alzheimer's. And so I was her primary caregiver. And so during that time period, it stopped everything in my life other than caring for her. And so
Right.
while she would be sleeping or whatever the case, that's when I would write on the book. And so I've always known that I wanted to tell my story and speak about it. It's just I've dedicated the time to do it, and
Mm-hmm.
the book is published. And so now I'm just out here talking
Yeah.
and speaking and having fun and connecting and trying to just impact people as much as I can.
Yeah. And I can really see and hear
Yeah.
your passion. Of course, I always tell everyone, I'm nosy, so I like to go on people's pages and
Right.
review your website, which is below there. You need to check it out. The videos that you have, of course, I could tell that any stage that you're on, you're going to be a speaker of impact and
Yeah.
influence. That the audience members are actually going to be able to grab, gems in order for them to readily use now in order
Yes.
from their lives. So,
Yes.
I love a good speaker, and I love good, awesome male speakers. There's got to be diversity.
Right.
I love it that we have these women empowerment, but I am one that I want to include my brother on the stage with me, because we don't get it.
No.
We have to come together and provide resources and channels for the community together.
Right.
To build our families, to make sure that we're hosting more mental wellness within women and men, so that we can change it for the kids under us.
Yes, exactly. What I learned that this topic is it's more readily embraced by women than it is men. After I was caring for my mom, and she passed in 2020, and I was at a deep depression, deep place in my life, and I started going to these bereavement groups, and it really helped me. But I often was the only guy there. And so that tells me that we as men don't like talking about our pain and our trouble and our heartache, when in fact it's the thing that we should do. What we believe that it's weakness when it's actually strength. And so that is my message to the men, is that when you're able to speak about your feelings and those things, that your grief and your trauma, and you can get past it and nurture it, you are being strong, not only for yourself, but your family and your community and even the world, right? We can change the world by being more acceptable and open and understanding of, the trauma that we face.
Now, we talk about these traumas, and I cannot talk about this and not bring up generational trauma.
Right.
I mean, I think their impact on lives. And though we may have the best family ever, we might have some good mom and dads.
Ever.
But being a 70s baby, I, for one, have raised my hand, especially these older kids. That the eldest of the ones that we have, God bless.
God. Oh, believe me, I have 3 older kids, and they can try my nerves sometimes. 3 adult kids, and I love them. I call them my precious jewels, but for sure, they can try my nerves. And so, my goal is, I'm trying to be the best dad that I can be, even as they're adults. And so this topic, I talk to them about, if you need to talk, because it'll help you. You need to speak with someone. If you can't talk to me, and I don't think you probably can, because I'm dad, but you need to talk to somebody. And I tell my son that, too. I have 2 older daughters and a son. And I said, if you need to speak, whatever it is for you to improve and to evolve, then you should do that. There's nothing that's, to me, weakness about that.
I think we're changing the narrative and how we were raised, and having open conversations. At least, I see it, I hear it within us, and actually saying, okay, boundaries. Okay.
Right.
I actually had to get into a point where I let my teenager speak and voice her concerns. Now I have 2. They're 10 years apart, 27 and almost 17.
Okay.
So that was big for me to have my 17-year-old question my no.
Right. Right. Oh man.
How can I,
excuse, what you say? No.
Exactly. What? My no is just no.
I'm like, what you talking about? What you talking about, Willis? No.
Right.
Because that catches you off guard when they have a comeback, and I'm like, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
Especially now as they are older, they always got comebacks, everything.
Yeah.
And so it's
funny because patient. I haven't signed on to that gentle parenting so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's to a certain point, but I want to know her feelings.
Right.
So that even if my no doesn't change, we can have this open dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know what? And I think that she will, that will benefit her in her relationships that she will have in the future. And I'm trying to do that as well, is that I want to hear the other side. I want to hear your side of it. Convince me. And maybe you're not going to listen to me anyway, but at least I want to hear your other side. It's not always about me being right, being the parent, right? Especially at this point.
Do as I say.
Right.
You do what I say.
Yeah, when they were younger, all day long. But now, as they're older, it's like this is my thought, and this is my input, and I don't want you to do the same things that I did in my life, and to make the same mistakes I've made. And so that's where I'm coming from, is from love. It's not, they may think it's judgmental, or they may think that it's all love.
Yeah,
if you don't understand the parents' love, and we're just trying to help you. Yeah, it's just concern. That's all. And they don't get that, but that's okay.
So
I don't think we got it either, because I know when I was in my 20s and 30s, it was
I will
about what I
say
wanted.
I'm really happy that I have this open door kind of policy, and they come to me like
Wow.
my daughter actually come. I'm like really surprised, but I did have the open kind of door with my mom. I mean, my mom, she was just she put it on the table. Homegirl was just real.
Right.
I was able to have a good balance because I saw individuals that were educated, and I was very active in the political world in Detroit, and just was able to experience what life could be like, past my environment that I was living and sleeping under. However, I love to have the balance because a home chick, she did not sugarcoat anything.
Your mother?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
She was the real. Okay.
Right.
She was that auntie that you love to see when you went to the family reunion.
Okay.
Because she was gonna make it live.
Right.
So
should keep it real with you, and at the same time have a good time.
You like it or not, Tony was gonna be real.
Yeah.
So I have that, and even knowing my trauma and growing up and having my son that's now 27, I had to raise my hand and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I mean, for the parts of your life that you may think that I completely messed up, there's life, and you'll get it as you're raising your children. Right. That it's not seamless. It's life. You do go through things,
and you do your best.
I think it's important that you acknowledge the trauma that you go through as a child, but as an adult, and when we don't seek the help that we need in order to become better individuals, it does spill on our kids. Right. It does. So it does. And different narratives, things that you just taught, like some things I still do. People say, "Well, why you do it that way?" I did it because Granny did it.
Right. Exactly. That's the way Mom did it. Yeah. And I found myself parenting the same way as my parents. Yeah. And you really can't do that with kids these days. You have to evolve.
2024 is a different breed.
It is. It is. And but I respect the fact that they are all different. They all have their own different personalities. And so, so at this point in my life I want to make sure, and they probably have some daddy. I don't think they would have any what's called daddy issues but I was always the disciplinarian and the one that, they have that really call up mom relationship. And their mom she was a great person, and they have a very probably more open relationship with their mom versus with me. I was a little bit harder on them, and like my dad was with myself. And I didn't want to say, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm your dad. And so, but at the same time, at this point, I'm like, I'm open. And if there's things you want to talk to me about, that you have issues with me, then let's talk about it, because I never want my own kids to have trauma that maybe I had inflicted on them just by trying to make them into better individuals, better people, right? Based upon my own upbringing, right?
Right. I know we want to definitely change this saying that I know I was brought up in: fake it till you make it. And that's why it's so important to stop lying and start living your life.
Right. Stop. Just be who you are. Be your authentic self. And I find that now you have at the bare minimum more joy and more peace of mind. When you just be who you are instead of trying to be someone else that you're not. And I was always trying to lie about whatever it was that I thought I needed to lie about in order to feel more validated, when in fact, just who you are is validation, right? You don't really seeking validation from individuals.
Yeah.
You'll never be satisfied because it will never be enough. And it may not even be from the right individuals. And so finding that ability to just understand and be who you are, and those that really want to be around you and accept you and love you will
Yeah.
do that for you,
Yeah.
who you are, instead of this make believe person. For me, that I created in my mind, it was like I was living in this house of mirrors, and like each reflection was like a distorted image of myself, and each mirror was just adding an additional layer to this make believe person that I created. And I was not happy. I didn't have any joy. And so once I was able to get past that, then I found myself just being who I am. This is me.
Yeah. So okay, so let's dive into some of the your services and truly who you are and the passion that you have behind being this coach and inspirational speaker. So what are some effective strategies or techniques for managing and healing from emotional trauma? I mean, where does one start?
Well, people, the first place is that you have to just acknowledge that you may be carrying the burden of an unhealed emotional scar. Because a lot of people don't even realize that that's something that they could have. They don't even understand it's there, but it's just sitting there in their heart and their emotions, and it impacts everything that they do, but they don't realize that it's an emotional scar. So the first thing is really just to uncover your scar, right? That's the first step. And I talked about it earlier. It's not about pointing fingers or assigning blame. It's just about realizing that you may have an emotional scar. It's to acknowledge it. Because once you acknowledge that the pain, then you can move on from there. That's always the first place, is to say that here I am. I'm hurt. I'm not healed. I have pain. And that's hard for people to do. No one
So
wants,
hard.
people want to feel pleasure. They don't want to feel the pain. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to, in order to get to the pleasure and the joy and the peace and the success and a life more fulfilled, you have to, not most times, but generally all the time, you have to go through that valley, right? You got to go through the valley. But while you're going through that valley, you're not alone. And so I teach about, how my faith has impacted me and my life in such a big way, that my faith, and even as a kid, when I was praying to get hit by a car, I had faith as a child, right, that it would happen, and it did. And so you have to have faith now as an adult to understand that this pain that you have and this trauma that you've experienced, that you can get past it. Because if you don't believe that, if you don't, whatever you believe, that's what you can do. So if you don't believe, you can get past that. So that's why I talk about faith, even to those that may not be receptive to it. I have to share my faith because it's been so impactful for me, as far as my own joy and my own trauma and the own things that I've experienced. And so that's where we start. And then we, focused on areas of really forgiving oneself, right? Where a lot of times we don't even want to forgive, but we'll forgive someone else. But no, we're so hard on ourselves. We're so self-critical. And so I really talk about, you have to learn how to forgive yourself. If you can't forgive yourself, then how are you ever going to heal? How are you ever going to get past the trauma that you experience? And so we really focus with that. And then sometimes it's all about, it's all about refocusing, what we're focused on, right? When we lie, that becomes the lens on how we view everything in the world, the lies that we tell. And so once we can change the lens, right, the lies into truth, now then we experience more truth in our view of the world, in our families, our community, and everything else, right?
Wow.
We have to change the lens. And so I tell people is that you can't alter your perspective. And I tell them to understand that, my past does not dictate my future. You know,
Hey.
that is the key, is that your past yesterday does not dictate your today. And so by changing your perspective, and it's not something that happens overnight, of course, none of these things, but if you work towards it and you work with it, then it's it's so beneficial to do it, because
Mm-hmm.
it makes you feel the pain that you've been dealing with. You at least know how to resource it through some
Right.
self-care and what I say self-love, just taking the time. We the physical scar, I remember when I got this wound. It was a wound before a scar. My mom used to tell me, boy, you better put that cocoa butter on that arm every day, because the doctor told her if the wound didn't heal properly, it could become infected, maybe requiring surgery, or even worse, maybe I wouldn't be able to use it. So
Mm-hmm.
what if we did that to our emotional scars, right? What if we did that cocoa butter treatment to our emotional scars like we do our physical? We don't do that. Most times we'll take care, we get a cut. Oh, yeah, we put a band-aid on there. We'll put some vitamin E. We'll put that cocoa butter in our community, put that cocoa butter.
Cocoa
But
butter.
I still got a jar of cocoa butter around here
I know
somewhere
that's right.
that I still use cocoa butter. But
Right.
how often do we do that to our emotional scars? Like, what I say, your self-care, having a self-care day, that is treatment for an emotional scar. Like meditation and mindfulness, those are treatments for emotional scars. And then learning how to resource yourself when you're triggered. You may be even triggered listening to this podcast,
That's
and
it.
the way that the emotions may come up. And so you just have to learn how to, I tell people to breathe. Just, that's easy. One thing you can do anywhere is that when you're triggered, calm yourself and just breathe, right? Deep
Mm-hmm.
breaths.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people smoke, right? It's not necessarily, it's the deep breath that they
Right.
breathe in. They're getting oxygen into the lung. And of course, the nicotine calms them down.
Right.
But you can take away the cigarette and just do deep breaths. And that helps you to resource yourself and just become focused on your body, focused on your mind. Let go of that, whatever the focus was that triggered you. If this is triggering you, just step away from it for a minute, then come back and watch it, and just be able to resource and ground yourself, and then move on with it. You move on with your day.
Right.
Don't be triggered all day or
Mm-hmm.
all week. Sometimes it can last a couple of days. Just
Yeah.
find a way to provide yourself some just meditate, breathe, and then refocus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Now, I know we have friends, and some of our friends have issues. And if
Yeah.
and like us, I think we become these individuals that talk to people because everybody's always calling us for advice.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, how do you approach someone that is hesitant on seeking help for, their emotional trauma? A lot of people don't like to seek help,
Yeah.
especially let's focus on the men. Men, I'm trying to bring men to this table of discussion so that we can heal minds and stabilize families,
Yeah.
because we need our men.
Right.
We
We do.
really do.
Yes, I'm all for that, is that I believe that, and that's why I wanted to be such an instrumental part of my own kid's life, is that I know having a dad is important. And so when it comes to men, and I was raised, my father was in the service for over 25 years. And so I was raised by a man that, of course, taught me that crying is weakness, right? Don't cry, boy, he would say. Boy, don't cry. Right. And so I held those emotions in, even when he passed over 30 years ago in his funeral. I was like, nah, I'm a hold in these tears. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times, especially with our men, is just understanding that showing emotion it's not weakness. It doesn't make you less of a man. It just makes you more of a person. Let me repeat
Mhm.
that. Doesn't make you less of a man, makes you more of a person to show your emotions, to deal with your trauma, because your trauma and the issues that you have impact your family. And then it impacts your community and impacts everyone around you. So if you're able to address those issues, then you could probably impact your family for generations, right? Because if you learn how to have kids that deal with their own trauma and they know how to resource, and you're open with them, they're going to teach their kids the same tools and the same way of living, that we're open, that it's okay to cry. I'm not just talking about crying to cry, but when you need to cry, like sometimes I still miss my mom, and if I need to cry, I'm gonna cry. And at her funeral, man, I was crying. I was like, I'm not holding back, and I'm so good that I'm so glad that I did. Yeah, being open, being vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. And I also tell my girl circles, take time out and say, hey, is there anything that I can do for you? Or, how are you feeling? It's so funny because I asked someone that the other day. I was like, so tell me, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And it was like, okay, are you putting me on the couch? Do you need to be on the couch?
Right. Yeah, people get sometimes offended when you ask them a question, or you want to dig a little bit deeper, when it's actually you're just concerned for them, right? Yeah. Because everybody wants to say, "Oh, I'm okay, or I'm great," and when they're really not. It's hard. It's hard to talk about. I understand it. And so I'm hoping that when individuals hear my story or hear me freely talk about my own trauma and issues that I've had in my past, drug use, alcohol, thoughts of suicide, all these things, that it makes them feel more open, and that it's just everyday life, and that they can feel open about expressing their own pain and agony and trauma and things that they've gone through in their life.
Awesome. Yeah. Now I know that our listeners and viewers can get your book. I know I've had the website down there. I want you to tell our audience exactly where they can find you on all of the social media sites, so they can grab your book. And also, there are leaders out there that are doing impactful things. And I know that you can travel anywhere.
That's right.
Resource for them to be on the stage, to of course give the gems and the empowerment needed for our community together. I mean, check out his website. There are gems. There are things that will be able to be impactful to individuals' lives. That I want you to of course invite him to your stage, connect with him. Yes. I love a good collaboration and partnership. This is how we do it.
That's how we do it.
Change the community and things. So let the audience know exactly how they can get in touch with you.
Well, my book, I Am a Liar. Stop living your lie, start living your truth, is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, primarily online. It's also, if you go to my website, Stop Living Your Lie, startliving.com. It's available on there as well. You can reach me by email at Terence Dixon at startliving.com.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. This is a candid conversation. We want to continue these conversations.
Yes.
Of course, so that we can inform and let people know that they're not alone in this. I mean, I always tell people,
you are not alone.
You are not alone.
No.
People will look at you and say, "Oh, you got to pull together." But honey, if it wasn't for God and my self-talks and what He's called me to do, and having faith in me, and not really owning any of the drama that people try to pass on to me, I couldn't be this force today. I could still be stuck, and people don't have to be stuck. And they don't stay stuck, and if they and they have to connect with individuals and experts like yourself in order to pull them out of the darkness. There is joy out there, honey.
There is joy.
There
is joy. There is happiness. There is fulfillment. There is success, and however you define that. And there is like this feeling of I've gotten past this bad part of my life. And so there's a community of fellow overcomers, right? And we are bonded by our emotional scars to resilience, to strength and transformation. And together we form this impenetrable bond that cannot be broken.
Awesome.
So it was an honor and privilege for me to be on your podcast today.
Yes.
I had such a great time.
I always end it with like a motivational speech, not shouldn't say speech, but a quote or something that the audience can hang on to. And you did just that without me even asking for it. We want to empower individuals. Thank you for being on the show. This won't be the last, of course.
Yes. Right.
We've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Guys, it has been awesome. Fam and cousins, I hope you were inspired to do some things different, to actually uncover the scar, recognize it for who it is, and create some things in your life that says, you know what, I'm going to live a different life here in 2024. It starts right now. And it starts by you connecting with individuals such as Terence, of course. Go ahead. You want to go to his website, cop the book, begin the works today. It is your girl. That is audacity in life, people. Okay, it's your girl, LaShaMarie. Thank you for tuning in. Please come back. Bye.